Hello everyone, this is Dr. Raghav Singh from Department of Geophysics, Banaras Hindu University. I am one of the course instructor in the course Exploring the Earth, Fundamentals of Geophysical Methods and Planetary Insights. This is week 3 of the lectures. In this week, we are going to cover magnetic method. This is the first lecture of magnetic method. In this lecture, we are going to delve deeper into the Earth's magnetic field and its history and when it was started. People started studying the Earth about Earth's magnetic field. So let's get into the slides. So we can also, before going into the slide, let me discuss some of the basic common knowledge about the Earth magnetic field. We all know that there are high energetic field, solar wind coming from the sun, and we get protected from the wind using this geomagnetic field. This is a natural field and global field. So first we are going to discuss about the interaction of solar wind with geomagnetic field. So in this figure you can see there are solar wind coming from this side, from the left hand sides, and these solar wind interacts, they are high energetic charged particle, they interacts with the Earth's magnetic field and they compresses the Earth magnetic field towards the day side, and they elongated stretches the magnetic field towards the night side. We can see there are many nomenclatures written here. One is bow shock, magnetoseth and magnetopause. The bow shock is the first region, or you can say the boundary when solar wind interact with the magnetic field. Then comes the magnetoseth. In magnetoseth region there are high energetic particle. Those high energetic particle in the solar wind, they get shocked, they get slowed down, and they with high temperature they wander there in this region only, in this magnetoseth region, in the whole region they wander there. Some of the energetic particle enters into the atmosphere from the poles, from the northern pole and from the southern pole. These entered solar radiation cause the auroras. We can you already heard, I think you must have heard about the auroras, the aurora borealis and aurora australis. Aurora borealis, they are lights emitting from the gaseous gas particles, from nitrogen and oxygen. Particles interacted with the solar wind, they went into high energy state, then when they come to ground state they emit colorful radiation. So in the northern pole region and in the southern pole region also you can see these auroras. So and these shaded areas are called Van Allen belts. These was first discovered by Van Allen in 1958. These belts trap those most of the particles which entered into the atmosphere. They move from one pole to another pole in a helical motion. So these belts extend from the inner belt. This belt extend from 1000 kilometer to 3000 kilometer from the surface of the earth, and the outer belt, which mostly contains electron, it varies from the 7,000 kilometer to up to 40,000 kilometer, up to 10 to 15 earth radii. You can see on this axis, this is 10-20 earth radii. We can see that 7 to 10 earth radii, the outer belt is extended. So the magnetopause is a boundary between the magnetoseth and the zone which is safe from the solar wind. Not only deflecting the solar wind, Earth magnetic field also help us in guiding satellites, adjusting their orientation. Also it helps some birds to get direction. It also helps us to get the direction using a compass. See the slides, there are other planetary bodies which have global fields, but some of them doesn't have a global fields, or they may have a global field in a history, but now they loses its global field because of this interaction. So how they loses the global field? So solar wind interacted, if there is no weak field, solar wind directly interacted with the atmosphere, and those atmospheric particles exchange energy from the solar wind, and they get high energy, and they get escaped from the gravity of their planet. So one example is Mars, where the magnetic field is very weak. This reason, because of this weak magnetic field, there is a very thin atmosphere containing only heavier particle and close to the surface of the earth. And for our moon, there is no such global field observed. Only there are superficial local field, crustal field you can say. Those are mostly of maximum of 100 nanotesla from the surface, and from satellite altitude of 30 kilometer they have detected only 30 nanotesla magnetic field. Okay. So, after this interaction, some those particles which enter the atmosphere, they may come to the surface, they may not come to the surface, but that is not important, because their energy is very less and they are not detectable on the surface. So, some of them forms auroras, some of loses energy in forming auroras, and some of most of them are trapped in the Van Allen radiation belt. So, going to the next slide. What is the origin of this global field, magnetic field? So, there are no such theories of origin of magnetic field, but there are hypotheses, proved hypotheses, or we can say working hypotheses of magnetic field. One of the hypotheses is called magnetohydrodynamics. So, we can see these complex loops in the outer core of the earth. I think you already know the earth structure, internal structure. There is a crust, then there comes the mantle, thickest part, then there is a outer core, and then there is a inner core. So, inner core assumed to be solid and the outer core assumed to be liquid. These information, liquid and solid, they come from the seismological study, studying the seismological waves. So, in the outer core there is a motion of liquid. So, those liquid, they are not just simple liquid, they are charged particle, charged liquid. So, moving of a charged liquid causes a current, and this current causes a magnetic field, but there is no single loop forming the current, and there is no single field. There are complex loops. You can see in the figure, there are complex loops, there are many loops. These loops contribute to the global magnetic field. That is why we say that the magnetic field of earth is not uniform everywhere. So, I will explain in the next slide when we are discussing about the geomagnetic element. Then there is a term declination, which is the angle of true north for and the magnetic north. That angle is not fixed. If the magnetic field would have been uniform, the angle should have been fixed, should have fixed for every place on the earth, but that angle changes. It means that earth's geomagnetic field is very variable, and everywhere it is not uniform. So, let me tell you one thing, one interesting thing about the geomagnetic field, that the actual north pole, if you assume that earth is a big magnet, a bar magnet, and the actual north pole of that bar magnet is in the southern hemisphere, or in the southern geographic pole, near the southern geographic pole, and the actual south pole is in the northern hemisphere, or the northern geographic pole. This is because when you use a compass, your magnetic needle, the north of the magnetic needle points towards the magnetic geographic north, not exactly geographic north, but the magnetic type of the 11.2 degree shift is there. This time I think this angle is increasing year wise 0.2 to 0.3 degree. This may be now 11.5 in some recent books, but 11.2 was a standard for this angle. So, this angle is called declination, and this is variable. So, as I was telling, these loops causes the this current loop causes the magnetic field, which contributes to the global field. So, the part of the main field, the total field observed on the surface of the earth, the 95% to 97% part was contributed by this field, this core field, outer core field, and some 3 to 5% part of the magnetic field was contributed by the ionospheric field. Ionosphere is a region extending from 1000 kilometer to up to thousands of kilometer. This region also contains the ionic particle, and due to that there is a magnetic field which contribute to the global magnetic field of the earth, total magnetic field of earth. There is also a significant contribution from the crustal field. Crustal field means the magnetic field originated from the rocks which are in the upper crust of the earth. These crustal rocks get magnetized in the ambient field at the time of their formation. They significantly contribute, and that makes the basis of our geophysical exploration using magnetic method. So, so these are the elements I was talking about. So, this is the angle, you can say this is the angle of declination. This is a true north. True north is the geographic north, not the geomagnetic north, or not the direction where your magnetic needle points. Okay. So, this angle between the magnetic north and the geographic north is called angle of declination, and the magnetic field of the earth, the geomagnetic field, can be studied or can be quantified using 7 quantities. One is declination, another is inclination, another is the total field and the component of total field. This include total 7 elements. Those are called elements of the geomagnetic field, and any three of knowledge of any three of the element can be used to totally explain the Earth magnetic field. So, you required only 3 to compute remaining 4. So, these are the some relations between the those components. We can see the east component, the north component, the horizontal component, the total field, the field of the total field of direction, and the vertical component. The total field is dipping downwards in the northern hemisphere, and we use general sign convention. If the field is dipping inwards or downwards, we take it as positive. If the angle, if we are measuring an angle towards the east side, we are taking it positive. If we are measuring angle towards the west side, for suppose for declination, if you are this angle is towards the east side, so this angle is positive. If we are measuring angle towards the east side, this would be negative d. So, this angle should have been fixed if the magnetic field would have uniform all over the earth, but that is not the case. So, everywhere on the earth, on any position on the earth, if you take the measurement of declination, it will show you some variable quantity. For example, here the declination may be different, or some other place the declination, or some other latitude the declination may be different. So, these elements are essential to quantify the Earth magnetic field. So, let me tell you some facts about the magnetic field, geomagnetic field. The field measured in this geophysics, the measured field, we use the unit nanotesla, because Tesla is a very big unit. We measure in nanotesla unit, and the variation of the geomagnetic field from pole to equator, from pole is averaging about 65,000 to 70,000 nanotesla, and on equator it is almost 25,000 to 30,000 nanotesla. Okay. So, these magnetic field, as I told you in earlier slide, these magnetic field are not uniform, they are very dynamic. So, there are changes, there are spatial changes, there are temporal changes. So, the spatial changes we can measure using the magnetometer. We are going to in coming lectures, we are going to discuss about the instruments. One of the instrument is that proton precision magnetometer. Mostly we use that ppm for the surveying. So, this spatial variation, lateral variation, you can say on the surface of the earth, we are moving on the surface of the earth with the instrument, and we are measuring the variation in the magnetic field, total magnetic field. So, it can be measured by the magnetometers, but the temporal variation, it can be measured by a fixed station. So, temporal variation may be long term, may be short term. So, the short term variation, which is called diurnal variation, which is a change in magnetic field, total magnetic field of the earth over a course of a day. So, this is called diurnal variation or daily variation. So, daily variation are very essential for correction of the acquired magnetic data, and then there comes some secular variation. Secular variation or long term variation, there are many types of variation. One of such variation is because of the sun effect, you can say the magnetic field of sun effect here, and when the coronal mass ejection intensity is high, those high energy particle interact with sun and causes a magnetic storm on the surface of the on the earth, and during those time, that is a cyclic process. So, that is a 11-year cycle, 11-year of quiet time and 11-year of noisy time. So, in those noisy times, we generally suspend magnetic survey, but because we suspend magnetic survey, because those noises are very random and they cannot be measured properly. So, that is why we cancel the magnetic survey. In the quiet time, we can perform the survey as usual. So, these surveys and the data acquired in the field needs to correct it for these variations, and there are other long term variation. One of them is called westward drift. The whole magnetic field is shifting westward. We can say the isomagnetic line, or you can say the iso intensity line, they are shifting toward the west. The reason is not clear, but there are hypotheses that the complex current of the outer loop causes this shifting towards the west. And there is another called reversal, magnetic field reversal, that is observed over a geologic time, you can say millions of years of time. The present day a reversal is due for 2000 years, almost 2000 years. So, I earlier say that the magnetic field is very dynamic and that is not uniform. So, we cannot predict when is going to reverse, or the reversal takes some time, or it is a reversal from the history. We know that the reversal the transition time is almost 100 to thousands years, and there are this is called geomagnetic time scale. This is called geomagnetic time scale. You can see the black one and the white one. Black one are normal time. We can say we are living in a normal time this time. This is 6 million years, 5 to 6 million years ago. This is a recent time, a Bruness normal. So, this normal field means the north is towards the north and the south is towards south, which are we are considering for this time. And back in the history, before 1 million years ago, you can see before 1 million years ago there was a reversal. So, how do you know these things? So, the field lines or the suppose we are rock formation during that time, boundaries, plate boundaries, you know already about the plates, tectonic plates which are moving continuously. So, there are three types of plate boundaries. One is convergent boundary, one is divergent boundary, and one is the transform fault. So, on the divergent boundary where the plates are moving away from each other, there are examples like mid-oceanic ridges where the crust is spreading away from the ridge. So, every time there is a newer crust is forming, new crust is forming. So, this crust when cools down before the Curie temperature, they get magnetized in the ambient field, ambient direction. So, those are igneous rock. Igneous rock contains magnetite, and because of this magnetite, we are coming to that in the later lectures. So, those igneous rocks get magnetized in the ambient direction and ambient intensity with the ambient intensity. So, the when we study about the crust, oceanic crust, we get opposite directional of magnetic field. So, this proves that there are some times when the magnetic field was reversed to the current magnetic field. Those are called reverse magnetic time. This is called Matiyama reverse, then Gauss normal, then Gilbert reverse, then this is again a epoch 5 normal. So, we are currently according to some books, we are currently 2000 year due for the reversal. So, these are some other changes in the dipole magnetic moment and the tilt. This is the tilt of dipole axis. We can see starting from the 8 degree towards the 11.5 degree, then coming down to 10 point something degree. Then the longitude of the poles are also changing, poles are shifting, that is called polar wandering also happening. APW, apparent polar wandering paths, are also studies. There are a lot of variation. Overall, we can say that the magnetic field is very dynamic, and we need a more sophisticated instrument to study these variations in detail. So, this is the transition part when we from the globe when we go from the global to the local field. Local field means we are going to study about the minerals. How do you identify using magnetic survey the minerals and the geological structure? For the application part, I can say that magnetic method is majorly used in mineral identification, mineral exploration, and for oil and gas study. In oil and gas industry this is mainly used for geological structure identification. Geological structure means if there is a faulting, there are other things, then we can other structures like pinch outs, we can identify if those pinch outs are made of igneous rock, then we can identify easily using the magnetic method. So, these are some books for further reading and references. I have taken those figures from Laurie. Thank you.